How are you? I hope all of this COVID stuff isn't getting you down too much. So, as you know, I've been working on or looking at options for you to watch TV and other capabilities that we thought we could build that might make life a little more interesting for you. So I wanted to meet today to talk about what I've been doing and show you some ideas for input, really, to get your input into whether these things are interesting to you, whether you would like me to continue to try and develop them, and what changes you might like or how you might see us doing things differently. So, as you can see here, I've got a little agenda. The goal for what I've been doing is to support you in controlling your TV so that you can watch TV news or other TV programs, to provide a method so that you can use Netflix and control it to show videos and so on. And we also spoke about enabling you to operate some powered devices, light switches, plugs, and so on. So those are the goals of what I've been doing, and we'll be talking about some of those today. So today's objective, as I said, I'd like to show you some ideas that I have to get your input. And I do want to stress these are ideas. There's nothing cast in stone. What I'm going to show you is a mock-up of how it might work if I go ahead and build something for you. What you eventually get will be different. It will be designed according to your needs. I'm not using the real thing today. I'm just faking it up with some other tools. So please remember that what I'm showing you is completely flexible, can be very different depending upon whatever you want and need. So the strategy that I've taken in exploring or in coming up with ideas for these goals is to build something that works like your phone does right now. At the moment with your phone, you have one button and you can select from a list of choices. So if you're using the auto dialer, it lights up the first auto dial option, waits a second or two, lights up the next one, and slowly goes down the list until you select one. And if you don't select any, it starts again at the top of the list. I know it cycles a few times. So that strategy works well with one button, and we're going to do something similar. However, instead of showing you lights for each of the choices that you could make, I want to do something different. There's two options. I can use voice prompts, that is to say, the device that I'm building can tell you what the current choice is before you select it, or there could be there could be a small display mounted perhaps on your chair. I'm talking about something that's only a few inches wide. So we can do either or both of those for you, and I'm going to illustrate what it might feel like for using either or both of those today as well. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go through showing you some stuff, how it would work for you to do these things of controlling, choosing TV channels and so on, Netflix, and some powered devices. Okay. So start thinking about TV, showing different TV channels. And the list of choices that you might be given would be something like this. You would be able to, you'd need to be able to turn on the TV, to be able to turn off the TV, and then, I've put in 3 channels here. I don't know what your preferred channels were. You could have any number of channels, but they would just be in the list. So when this thing was working, it would go through these options one at a time and show them to you. Okay, so how would that look? Well, as I said, you would have somewhere on your chair a small display, and it would show the first choice. And then after a second or two, it would show the next choice. And it would cycle through each of the choices, and then when it got to the bottom, so we've got the Discovery Channel here, the next choice is to mute the TV, the next choice is unmute the TV, and I think that's the last item in the list, and then it would go back to the top of the list. Turn on the TV, turn off the TV, and so on. So let's say you wanted to watch CNN. If you clicked your button now, it would go through some actions to make CNN show. And then at some point it would go back to giving you the range of choices. So you could change to Fox News, or you could turn off the TV, or whatever. How that would work if there was sound would be something like this. Let me just go back to the beginning. And I don't know if you can hear. I'm just turning up the volume here.
Turn off the TV. Watch CNN. Watch Fox News. Watch the Discovery Channel. Mute the TV. TV is muted.
That's what would happen if you chose that option. Okay, so that's the simpler thought about how things might work to go through a short list. However, the problem with that strategy is if we include, this is just choosing between a few channels and turning on and off the TV. But if we want to include Netflix in particular, there are a number of extra things that you would have to do in order to select a video on Netflix and play it. And likewise, if there were other home automation things you wanted to do, there would be a number of choices associated with them. So then this list would become very, very long and unworkable. So I want to show you a different approach, or a similar but slightly different approach. In this approach, there is only one option at first, and that is the wake up or the start it off. This is like your phone when you're doing nothing and you first click it, then it starts going through the menu. Well, this would be the same. It's at the sort of idle state. If you clicked your button, then right away it would give you a list of choices. This is an example list. And this one I said, well, there's stuff to do with watching TV, stuff to do with watching Netflix, stuff to do with home automation. And I've added a couple of, well, this one, which I'll talk about later, things to say. And the last choice is exit submenu, and then it would pop through at the beginning and so on. If you chose one of these, let's say you chose watch TV, then it would show you a list of TV options. Now I should say that you will only see the TV options. You won't see any of these other things at the time. So these TV options are just like what you saw before, and if you selected one, then you would get the one you selected, like Discovery Channel. If, however, you decided not to watch TV, but you clicked on Watch Netflix, then you would, then the system would fire up Netflix for you. But as you almost certainly know, the very first thing you have to do is navigate to find a film to watch. Basically, you have to go up and down and left and right through the different choices until you select one. So you might go down, 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 and right a few times until you found the one, and then you select it, and it gets it ready for you. And then at some point you have to say play, and it starts playing the movie. During the movie, you might want to pause it. You might need to jump to the home option, and other things. There would be other things that might be stuck in this menu that would be added. So let's look at that now as it might appear if you were using it using this device on your chair. Okay, so as before, you would have the wake-up choice, and if you select the wake-up choice, it goes to this list we saw before: watch TV, watch Netflix, and so on. Okay, gets to the bottom of the submenu and goes to the top again. Okay, and I'm going to put the sound on so that you would see how that would sound.
Watch Netflix. Home automation. Things to say. Exit submenu. Watch TV.
So let's say you chose watch TV.
Turn on the TV. Turn off the TV. Watch CNN. Watch Fox News. Watch the Discovery Channel.
And if you chose watch the Discovery Channel, it would show the Discovery Channel. Okay, so I'm going to get back to this sort of big picture of what's happening here. So we had those, the menu we were looking at here. Watch Netflix, as we said before, it would just cycle through these, and you could use Netflix as you needed. The two other items I've added here are this home automation and things to say. With home automation, there are a number of different devices these days you can use for home automation, such as turning lights on and off, turning plugs on and off, thermostat, opening and closing blinds, locking and unlocking doors, and so on. The list goes on. From our point of view, they're all pretty much the same. You just have to give a command to those devices, and they will work. So we could add as many or as few as we needed. But because now we've got really another layer, it's not just a matter of turning on the light. You also need to turn it off, and so on. So we've got another layer of menu. So to use this, if we recall right at the beginning, we've got the wake-up thing, and it would cycle, watch TV, watch Netflix, choose home automation. If you chose that, it would give you this menu: lights on, plugs on, exit submenu, lights on. If we chose lights on, now we get a choice. In this case, hall light on, hall light off, bedroom light on, bedroom light off, and so on. As many lights as you want to control, or none, of course. You don't have to have any of this. Similarly, you might have plugs wall plugs that are controlled in the same way. So you could turn on the radio if it was in a wall plug, or off fans on and off, heaters on and off, and so on. The possibilities are pretty endless these days with what you can do. Okay, so that was the home automation stuff. And the final one is things to say. Now, we hadn't discussed this, but talking with another associate of Neo Insight, he pointed out that often there are things that one wants to say that are difficult to get out, but you want to communicate it to a caregiver or a visitor or something. So he suggested we include a list of things to say. This is the list that I've started with. So you would choose, I want things to say, and then you would have a list here. I'd like some water, I'm hungry, I need to go to the bathroom, thank you, I understand what you're saying, whatever. This list could be customized, and it would work in exactly the same way. It would just step through them until you chose the one you wanted, and then there might be an expanded message. So when you chose thank you, it would say to whoever was in the room, thank you for what you've done or said, whatever. We would decide on what the words are at the time. Okay? So that's the big picture on how it all works. And again, as I said, that we can make this all work with voice, so you would hear each of the commands, or it could work with the display and voice, or perhaps just a display to you until a voice thing is needed. If you're watching Netflix or TV, you may not really care if it's spoken or not. It doesn't really make any difference. But if you wanted to use this things to say option, it may work better if if the system doesn't say them out loud but shows them to you on your display. So to display, I want some water. To display, I'm hungry. If it goes through these, goes through each of these on the display until you chose the one you wanted, and having chosen, let's say, thank you, it would then say out loud, thank you. Okay. So those are the choices. This is more or less how I'm thinking about how it would all work with either voice or display. I'd now like to talk about what this will all cost. This spreadsheet details some of the items that we would need to make it work. The first row talks about it's a thing called a Raspberry Pi, which is actually a very, very small computer that provides the brains for translating button presses and so on into meaningful commands. It will cost $65, and using a Raspberry Pi, there are other methods, but using the Raspberry Pi provides the most flexible and powerful approach to doing this. It'll be located on the chair, either hidden away or perhaps on the arm, depending on some other questions I'll ask in a minute. Here are two of them in cases. These cases are roughly the size of a deck of cards, so it's a very small item. Tucks away easily, or if it's on the arm of your chair, it will not take up much room. Now, these are actually in cases, but the Raspberry Pi doesn't come in a case, it comes without, so we need to buy a case. One option is to buy a case that has a display on top of it. This one has a display on top of it. And the display would serve not only to show you what the prompts are, but it's touch sensitive, so you can touch it to select a prompt. So that's one option. And the touch display case it would cost about $30. If we went without the display and just had one of the boxes we saw earlier, this then is not on the arm, it would be tucked away. Those boxes are only about $6, but then we would still have to buy a button, which I'll talk about in a minute. Then the next item here is a speaker. We need a speaker somewhere that will be attached to the chair but out of sight, and it is used to communicate when you're selecting items in the list. It will communicate with you, and it's used in the things to say option, and it also uses voice. The speaker will use voice to communicate with the rest of the system, which we'll discuss in a minute. Not sure what the speaker would cost, roughly $20. Okay, so if we don't use the display that we spoke about a minute, then we need to get a button. But again, it's only needed if we don't use the display. Price of buttons is really varied, from very cheap to very expensive, depending on the particular button we choose. This button, it's about 1¼ inches. and only costs a couple of dollars, but then it needs some kind of a box to put it in, and that'll cost some more. So the button question is really wide open at the moment, but I'm guessing around $10. The next item I mentioned is a gooseneck. Basically, we need some way of attaching the display if we use one, or perhaps just the button if we don't use the display. That needs to be attached some way to the arm of your chair, and that's what the gooseneck is for. This is an example of a gooseneck holding a computer tablet. Yours would look different. We wouldn't need one that's so long and so on, but it's an open question. So we need a gooseneck or some other attachment mechanism, about $20. The next item is a smart speaker. There are a couple. One is called the Amazon Echo Dot. Another one is called a Google Home Mini. And there are some others, but those are the best known ones. A smart speaker translates the speech from the stuff above into actions on the things below. They look like this. This is the Amazon Echo Dot. It's about the size of an orange, and you would place it somewhere on a table, or perhaps even hanging from a wall plug, somewhere in the house, in the room, near to where you want to use it. And as I say, it does many things, many things, but for us, we're using it to translate your button presses into actions in the world at large. Some of the actions we need to translate is communication with your computer, with your TV. And there's a thing called a Logitech Harmony Hub. It communicates the instructions to your TV and to Netflix and so on. This is the most expensive item in the list, but it's the only one where there is no flexibility. Right now, the only means of communicating with TVs and so on that I'm aware of is the Logitech Harmony Hub for about $160. You'd locate it somewhere in the room near the TV. It looks like this. It's about the size of maybe 2 packs of cards, and you just locate it on a table somewhere near the TV. It does the job of your TV remote sending infrared signals to the TV when needed. Okay, so all of what we have shown comes to $365. It'll give you access to your TV, to Netflix, to the Things to Say function I spoke about before, and some other smart speaker functionality. For example, you can ask your smart speaker to tell you what's happening in the world, or tell you what the weather is going to be today or tomorrow, tell you what the time is, and so on. There are a number of things you can do with smart speakers. All of them you would get with these items which I have detailed here. Okay. Now, I also spoke about, sorry, I'm just making a change here, about being able to control lights and plugs and so on. Smart lights, you can get lights. They're just regular screw-in bulbs, and they cost about $26 each. Price varies depending on how sophisticated your light is. So if you were to add a smart light to what you've got above, then you'd be able to control, using a button, you'd be able to turn this light on and off wherever it was located in the house. As I say, they vary because some you can dim the lights, some have different colors they can show, and so on. So price is hugely varied. Another thing you can do with smart devices is smart plugs. And basically, this is a set of 4 of them. You would plug one of these into a regular plug socket, and then you would be able to control it. So if you've got a radio plugged into one, or a fan, or anything that plugs into a power outlet, you'd be able to plug into one of those and then control it. As I said before, there are many other smart devices that you could use, such as devices that control your thermostat and open and close blinds and curtains and so on. And we can discuss those later, or you can look them up yourself on the internet. So this is the package that I've come up with. The price, I'm guessing, would be about $460. There might be some other items which I've forgotten, but $460 is the ballpark price for the package. Now, I understand this is a chunk of money, but it is the only way, or the best way that I can see for you to be able to control Netflix and your TV and so on using a single button interface. And I will probably attach more information in the email that I'll send. Please review this and let me know what you think. I'm happy to reconsider any and all options. Just let me know.